Jon Rahm is one of the greatest players of this generation. Now, whether you like him because he went to live or dislike that he went to live, we can't deny that he wins tournaments, he's won multiple majors, and he's worth looking at in terms of golf swing. He pretty much breaks all the rules in terms of what a golf swing should be, what it shouldn't be. So we have to look at these unorthodox swings to sort of see what makes them work, why is it good, and actually is there anything we can copy that might help our own games? Now we must remember that Jon is 6'2", 100 kilos or 220 pounds for you Americans. So he's a big, strong Spanish lad, and there are some things that he gets away with just because he's so massive that we might not get away with if you're not that size. But nevertheless, it's worth looking at, and because he is such a wonderful player. At address, Jon stands awfully close to the golf ball, so close in fact that some golfers would really feel nervous that they were going to shank the ball a lot. Jon has long arms, so his arms hang down quite low anyway, but he does stand very close to the golf ball. The golf clubs also look quite short, but again, I think that's just because he's so big. So just looking at Jon's grip, he has a super weak left hand. Now, we know in his backswing that we're going to get into later, he does bow his wrist. So having a weak right hand either forced him to bow his wrist to shut the face, or he already bowed his wrist, so he weakened his hand off to make it square. Either way, it works for him. It's definitely a move of a player who wants to fade it. It's if you're a drawer of the ball, it does become quite difficult to close the face relative to your path if you have a grip that is that weak. Just a quick one to say, if you can, please like and subscribe, and that'd be great. The more engagement I get on the video, the more YouTube push it to new people, and the more I grow. So anything you can do to help, that is awesome. Right, let's get back to it. As he takes the club away, what we're going to see with Jon is his swing just like breaks all the rules of what we think a textbook swing is, just proving that there is no such thing as textbook. So what we're going to see is he takes the club away, as his hands work out in that first move. The club works in behind, is a very inside takeaway. He's already bowing that left wrist, interestingly, which gets his club face ever so slightly closed. And he gets to the top of the backswing, which is really short. He's not achieved pretty much any depth to his backswing. You know, the likes of Rory and most golfers that we look at in this series, their hands are all the way back here behind the right foot, and he doesn't even get the butt end of the club behind his right toe, which is just insane. You know, his hands are 2 feet further forwards than most of the other tour players on the PGA Tour, or any of the tour players that we've looked at in this series. He doesn't achieve any depth in his backswing, really, because he doesn't really turn his hips very much on the way back. He, I think, learned with the idea that he should be keeping his right leg flexed to turn against, and sort of what happens is that right leg doesn't move, his right hip doesn't move, his right knee basically stays in the same place. So his hands just travel basically straight upwards instead of working around him in a circle. Now, if you've watched any of the TPI videos that they've done, you'll know that he's like mega inflexible. His swing really is like just a sort of band-aid around his body. But all of our swings are like that, so that isn't a criticism at all. From face on, what we see is very wide arms, really reaching away, not really much fold in that right arm, not much wrist cock during this phase of the swing, and a massive stretch away with his hands. Now, Jon doesn't really even get to a 90-degree shoulder turn, which is really rare. Most tour players get beyond 95 degrees, even with an iron at the top of the swing, where Jon is just, not turning very far because of the no hip turn. Again, it always comes down to the legs. If Jon ever wanted to create more depth and have a longer swing, which I don't know why he would, but if he did, then he would want to, where it would all start with that hip turn. Something that I really like is how Rahm pivots pretty much exactly on his axis. You know, he stays in the same inclination in the backswing with his left shoulder down. Generally, the better the ball striker, the lower the left shoulder in the backswing, and he creates this epic angle here with his body and his legs, massive compression of that space, and getting into this position is actually a power move, and it's going to help him stay on top of the ball. It's going to help him. He's created loads of flexion there, so he can then extend through the shot, which creates power. So we are going to see a few things here where, because Rahm doesn't have a massive turn, he doesn't get the club very far back, there are things like other power creators in his swing that we don't necessarily see in other players. We have got that mega bowed left wrist. Club face is almost open at the top. So what we see here is Rahm does a pretty good job of getting the club from that top position back down, pretty much on plane as he comes down into the ball. Obviously, it obviously hits a stock fade, so we are going to see that club head outside the plane line, but he is cutty. He does cut pretty much every ball, so this is absolutely fine. And there you go, his impact is pretty much spot on for where he needs to be. So one of the things with these players with unorthodox swings is they will always find the plane on the way down, whether you're Jim Furyk or whoever. The backswing doesn't really matter if you can get the club moving down on plane through the right angles at the right time. Through the ball here, that club is perfect. The club there, again, is on plane as it even comes out through his body. He's done an amazing job from that really upright hand, bowed left wrist, crazy position at the top, to within 5 or 6 frames, bang. There's nothing unorthodox about that position. Slightly bowed left wrist to keep the face square. Club's ever so slightly steeper above plane. Just outside plane because he wants to hit a cut. Perfect. Bang on plane at impact. Perfectly on plane again. Out on plane and then through. So although the backswing is pretty extreme and different, through the ball he's as good as anybody. Which is obviously this is the most important part of the swing. So it doesn't surprise me when you look at these impact frames that he's one of the best ball strikers in the world. So from the top of his backswing from face on, what we're going to see is as he starts down, that shift into that front foot, significant, 3 to 4 inches forwards from the top of his swing. Now, what we're going to see with Jon, because he has his hands so low, is he has so much lag. He has his hands so far ahead of the ball as he swings down that, again, this is an absolute prime time ball striker's move. So we've got that left arm forward, bowed left wrist, and then the club head way behind his hands. If you're looking to improve your ball striking, then this is exactly the position you want to copy. You can only get into this position if you have quite steep shoulders, your right shoulder significantly lower than your left, because the only way to get your hands that forward and still make contact with the ball is having a low right shoulder, a high left shoulder, and a significant amount of right side bend. This is actually really difficult to do and very similar to someone like Joaquin Niemann or Dustin Johnson. They achieve the similar sort of spine angles, and this isn't really something that many people can do. It's a tough one to copy, especially if you're outside the line and hitting fades. It's a little bit easy to do that if you're hitting a draw, but those steep shoulders, mega right side bend, is what allows him to get his hands so far ahead of the ball. Something else I really like is how well Jon keeps his head back as he's driving his hips forwards and driving his hands forwards. Often when players struggling with strike, they'll, in an effort to hit the ball first and maybe shift the weight forwards, they move their entire body, their head, their shoulders, their waist, their hips. Everything goes forwards, and that actually just throws off our angles and stops us being able to hit the ball high and might often even cause some tops. So driving forwards whilst keeping your head back, keeping the hands ahead of the ball, gets us into that sort of a brilliant impact position. Really good ball striker position. And actually, look, he's still, in this frame, Still has a long left arm. Clubhead, slightly, maybe just starting to overtake his hands. But if you want the ball to fade, then this is exactly what you need to do. He's holding the club so much through that impact. There really is a delayed release here. This isn't something, if you're an old guy or you're a slow swinger, this probably isn't what the sort of stuff you should be working on, because it's going to make you a little bit slower. Jon could probably hit it harder if he threw his hands at it a bit earlier, but he's so big, he's so strong, he generates so much speed anyway, he just doesn't need to do that. Once his hands get sort of to about waist high, he then starts to move up through the shot, finishing nice on his left heel, toes up in the air. It's an amazing move. If we look at how wide his arms are through the ball, it's so powerful. The release is so long. It really is a delayed shutting of the face. But if we think about how wide he is in the backswing, how wide his hands are in the downswing, and then how wide his hands are through the ball, that's a massive recipe for clubhead speed. He might not have a really long swing in terms of the club head. The club doesn't end up back here somewhere. What he does have is quite a big swing because of how wide he keeps his arms. The club is still travelling quite a long distance, even though his swing is effectively quite short, and that still gives him almost like, in theory, a long swing, bizarrely. So just because his shoulders don't turn very much and the club head doesn't get like past his head, because he's so wide, because he's stretching his arms out and not cocking his wrist or bending his arm, club's travelling really wide, keeps the width, gets his hands well ahead, de-lofts the club, extends massively wide through the ball, drives hard and finishes in balance. So this is a great golf swing. Again, Jon is one of the best players in the world, even if he's not on form right now. With no doubt that he'll get back to that and start winning tournaments again. So thanks a lot for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please do check out the other tour player swing analysis that I've done in this series. They seem to be going down quite well. So if you're interested in what I think about tour player swings, be sure to check that out.
Thanks very much for watching the videos. If you can please like and comment to boost the engagement, and subscribe if you don't already, that'd be great. If you like what I put out in these videos, you like what I say about technique, I can actually help you with your game no matter where you are in the world. So if you just want to click the link in the bio, it'll take you to Skillist, which is an online coaching platform, and there you can look to see what I do, and actually I can help you with your game. So analyze your swing, give you some drills and tips to help you improve, so we can work together to help you lower your handicap. But anyway, let's get back to the video.